Hello and welcome everybody. Welcome at this Thursday afternoon to our open session on co-designing for green transition in design research. We're really happy to welcome you all. My name is Ina Chilik. I'm part of EIT Climate Kick. And we are happy to showcase in this event the potential of design research to accelerate green transitions through co-design, collaboration, and practical experimentation. So hopefully this event will give you a chance to hear a little bit more about design-led research and its approaches and impact. And for everyone considering doing a PhD of the new Marie Curie-funded co-design transitions doctoral network, in which Climate Kick is one of the partners. And we'll share more details about that and 13 new positions that we will kick in the January 2024. We'll have more about that. We have fantastic speakers lined up. In terms of the agenda for today, this session has a very simple flow. So we will first hear from Professor Marcia Moratti and Professor Lucy Kimball, who would talk a little bit more about the project itself and the design research and what that means, and we'll give a bit of the introduction to Doctoral network. Then we'll have insights from recent doctoral design researchers, Olivia and Hadass. And then we'll have a space to go into more intimate setting with all of our fantastic speakers for the day. So you'll be able to join a breakout room with a specific speaker you would like to talk to, and you will basically have a chance to share a little bit more, ask questions, and any reflections that have emerged for you throughout the session. So yes, we intend to finish our session around 3:10, so it's going to be a little bit over an hour together today. And yeah, that's it for all the introductions from my side at this point. I'll stop sharing my screen and invite Professor Lucy Kimball to talk a little bit more and give us the introduction to the project. Over to you, Lucy.
Hello, good morning, good afternoon, wonderful to be here. So I'm going to start with saying a few words about what is this thing, design research. Then I'm going to hand over to my colleague, Marcia Moratti, who's going to talk a little bit more about our new doctoral network. And the full name of it here is Sustainable Transitions Through Democratic Design. But we thought it would be useful first to just say, well, what is this term design research? And if you're somebody, for example, working in a design consultancy, you may be very familiar with design research methods as part of your work. If you're from local government or business, you may be already using design research approaches. They might be integrated into service design work or policy design work or innovation practices or experimental engagements with communities like living labs or hackathons or design sprints and so on. So you may well be familiar. But if not, here's just a quick summary of the kinds of things that are going on in the academic sphere of design research. So it's often a practical form of research that's oriented to developing new approaches and solutions. It combines creativity as well as analysis. So those origins in the art school or the design school are integrated into the research. It often involves testing new approaches and solutions in a real world context. It's very often participatory and co-produced with citizens or people who are not citizens, who are marginalized, or different groups in society, whether through business or local government engagement. It's a form of knowledge production that integrates different perspectives, including lived experience and different kinds of knowledge. And although this is generalizing across a lot of things, it's also rooted in what we call a constructivist form of knowledge. You make things as a way of exploring the world, and that the world itself is made through the research. So that's a very brief summary. What does it actually look like in practice? We've chosen to just have 3 focus areas for today, because these are built into our doctoral network. The first is materializing and visualizing as both a practice and an area for research itself. How do we understand what goes on when designers materialize and visualize? And the example here is from a team called the Policy Lab, which is in the UK government, where they did a number of visualizing activities as part of a project to engage with stakeholders to understand the future of autonomous shipping. A second area of central to design research and practice is prototyping. And this example is an image taken from work by Professor Alison Prendeville, one of my colleagues at UAL, and the Public Collaboration Lab, who worked with here elderly citizens and people involved in a home library service. And what you see in this picture is the student with something, a simple, what you call a prototype, mocking up what a future digital service interaction might look like at a very early stage. And you can see that it's basically made of paper and cards. So different forms of prototyping as a way of engaging and co-designing. And then thirdly, an important area that is built into our doctoral network is linkages between the person-centered perspective and actually change of systems. How do you connect those things? And the example here is from another one of my colleagues, Dr. Lara Salinas, who has worked with her students and the local London council to engage with citizens, but also with the officers to co-create and explore what transitions might look like. So those are 3 simple examples showing you what academic design research can look like, which might look like things that you already do, but I would say probably there's a strong theoretical and methodological foundation, which a PhD will help you develop if you are interested in doing that. And the reason I've chosen 3 examples from the UK is because my university, University of the Arts London, is one of the 8 universities in 7 countries that are part of the network. So I'm now going to hand over to my colleague Massimo Tati, who's going to talk more about the network.
Thanks, Lucy. And again, welcome everybody also from my side. It's really a pleasure to have this opportunity shared with Climate Kick to present our soon to start, in fact, doctoral network, which will officially launch in January 2024. And it's a great pleasure to be here with all of you today. So as already mentioned, our doctoral network is called the Sustainable Transitions Through Democratic Design. And this is first of all a network, because as you can see from this image, it involves 8 universities in 7 countries, plus also 15 associated partners, which will also have a crucial role in our network to complement knowledge and to support the mentoring the 13 doctoral candidates that will be selected in the first 6 months of 2024, when we will open our application possibilities throughout a journey that will last for 3 years for each PhD candidate, and overall a project that lasts 4 years in total. So as Lucy was mentioning, our vision in this network is to really work at the crossroads between democratic innovation and climate transitions, leveraging the main skills and capabilities that design research can bring as an innovative approach to these important challenges that we are currently facing nowadays. So we want to work through prototyping, materializing and visualizing, and the facilitation of system change through practice for reaching together a number of impacts that go from shifting in public understanding, enhancing dialogues on climate transition related topics, where contestation might be quite high in certain atmospheres, contexts and topics, change the role of public administrations and making them more responsive, but also looking at organizational structures, understanding how to create a shift in the current systems and how currently public administrations operate with citizens, the society, and the stakeholders overall, and including embedding new practices in these organizations that might well include experimentation, where experimentation is definitely one of the important innovative elements that design research can bring. So moving to the next slide, this is again really our vision to work at the intersection between these two areas in collaboration with the 13 candidates that we will select, and in the network of several, now I don't have the exact number, supervisors and mentors in our secondment partners, to reach two main objectives all together as a community of practice. First of all, the extension of design knowledge, because we want to work combining several different approaches in design research, including co-design, inclusive design, social design, service design, systemic design, and so on. And also, we want to integrate these subdisciplines to really create a new field of practice that, in our vision, can be very relevant to addressing the current ambitions to reach climate neutrality. So really the effort is a cross-disciplinary and interdisciplinary one, where in fact in the network we do not only have universities and partners that come from a disciplinary background linked to design, but we also have universities and partners that are not only practitioners, but also come from other disciplinary perspectives, including governance, political sciences, social sciences, and so on, to complement one another. So moving to the next slide, this is in a nutshell the experience that the 13 candidates we will select will go through. Each candidate will be employed in a university, really following the rules of the Marie Curie scheme. So they will be registered in the PhD program of the hosting institution that will also select them through our recruitment process. But we'll also have an interdisciplinary team of supervisors and mentors. 5 people, 5 experts will follow each one candidate, also crossing disciplines in the way that I was just describing before. Each of these candidates will be employed at the hosting institution for 3 years, and during this time they will be closely followed by 2 mentors at their hosting institution, plus the 3 other supervisors and mentors in the other involved institution in the research project, adding up to 36 months, during which they will have several opportunities to not only conduct their research, but also to network with all of the other candidates and all the experts in the network. So they will receive at least 2 levels of training, one training that will be localized in the PhD program in which they will be enrolled, plus they will also benefit from a dedicated training that the network will specifically deploy for supporting all the 13 candidates. During the 36 months, they will also have international and interdisciplinary experiences being supported through 2 secondments in mostly 2 other partner organizations, also having a chance to be economically, financially, and professionally supported to move to 2 other countries to further complement their research. And of course, each candidate will be part of this international cohort of 13 candidates overall. So these are the main research themes that we are looking to explore in this network, and these are very much referred to what Lucy was presenting at the very beginning. We want to investigate the crossroad between climate transition and democratic innovation, applying design research across these 3 main themes: prototyping, materialization and visualization, and the facilitation of changes in practices and organizations through systems change, because we believe that these are 3 main areas in which there is greater scope right now to reach innovative results and impact using design research methods and strategies. So in the next slides, these three main topics are further split down into the 13 research projects that the network will fund and support. There is no need to go in detail through each of these right now, because also we don't have enough time and it will take too long. But as you can see from this table, each of these macro topic will be addressed by several candidates, and each one of these topics will be the specific focus of one candidate. And altogether, the 13 teams will build up the overall knowledge that this network is envisioning. So one thing to mention about the 13 topics is that when and if you will consider applying to our network, it will be important for you to go through the descriptions of these projects that will be made soon available through our website, which is currently in progress, because you will need to indicate which one of these topics resonates more with you and for which one you are applying. You will also be invited to provide a selection of topics. So what is the first in your personal ranking, but also what might be a second interest or a third interest, so that when we go through our recruitment process, we will be able to balance the applications that we receive. But then, of course, the process will conclude with one topic assigned to one candidate only. So in the next slide, you can see a diagram that overall tries to summarize and synthesize the journey, the overall experience throughout the 4 years. As you can see, the network will officially launch on the 1st of January 2024. The first 6 months will be mainly dedicated to the recruitment process, but then starting hopefully in September, all the 13 candidates will be enrolled in their respective PhD programs. And there will start the 36 months of experience and development supported via a team of 5 supervisors, but also evolving through a number of network activities and events linked to training. On the one hand, a continuous type of training that is the light blue squares that you see, but also dedicated events like summer schools and winter schools that will happen across the network in presence, also to allow everyone that is participating in the network to link, to network, and get to know one another better. There will be 2 secondments for each candidate, but we are also planning to organize 2 main bigger events, European-wide for sure, hopefully also global. Hopefully we will be able to capture interest from all over the world on these topics. And these 2 events will mostly be conferences in which we will involve all the candidates plus all the networks and any other interested partner and organization. So moving on, here you may be interested in understanding a little bit more about the application timeline. So we are going to launch officially the website any moment. Probably in a couple of weeks, we will have a landing page and a presence online is already there through our LinkedIn and Twitter accounts. So if you want, you can already start following us on LinkedIn and Twitter. Mid-January, we will officially open the call for applications. And on the 26th of February, we can already tell you that the call for application will officially close. And this will start then a selection process that will mostly run through an initial screening of applications and will invite the selected candidates to go through 2 rounds of interviews with the supervisory teams that will then follow each research project. And ideally, on the 15th of May or around that date, very close, we are going to notify the selected applicants with their job offers and await for an answer from them on their acceptance. And what we plan for is that all the candidates will ideally start their employment on 1st of September. So I think that this concluded this first part of initial introduction on the network. I hope I have been able to provide to you all the basic information. It's probably a lot to take in right now, but we will have the breakout rooms to discuss further and to take any questions. But for now, I will hand over to Ina again for the continuation.
Thank you so much, Marcia and Lucy. Really much appreciated. We did have a question about the selection process, but you already answered this. Thank you so much for that. And as I mentioned, we'll have the possibility to go into breakout rooms with the specific speakers a little bit later. But right now, I would really love to hear from early career design researchers, specifically from Olivia, who completed her PhD already, and also Hadass, who is currently a student at Aalborg University. But first, Olivia, we would love to hear a little bit from your perspective and your experience. Can you share what it's like to go through this program, and what are some of the highlights that you can share with our participants?
Yeah, I can. Hi, everyone. My name is Olivia. Thanks for that introduction. So what I did prepare was a little introduction to what I'm currently doing and what I did do in my PhD. So I hope that that nails what you're asking for, Ina. Otherwise, you can ask me as many questions as there's time for. So who I am, my name is Olivia, and I'm currently employed as a postdoctoral researcher at Aalborg University. It's a university in Denmark. And right now I'm working on an EU-funded project called Desire. That's short for Designing an Irresistible Circular Society. And then right now I'm supporting the organization of 8 very different urban transformation projects across 5 very diverse geographical and cultural contexts. But what I'm doing together with these fantastic transformation projects is to develop both methods and principles that can help transform existing urban living spaces and neighborhoods in inclusive and innovative ways where art and design and architecture play a key role. So that's what I'm doing right now. And now I'm going to try and build a bridge from that and to what I did in my PhD project, which I completed last year in 2022. So the title of my project was Service Design as a Way of Supporting a Strategic Transition from Products to Services. It's a bit of a tongue twister, I know, but it was an industrial project, which I think is important to say here because that impacted my experience quite a bit. So that means that I did it in a tight collaboration with a company. So it was like a 50-50 collaboration. And I think for this company that my research was supposed to help and support, transitioning towards a new model can, of course, come with a lot of tensions, and it can bring forth various different competing demands that you have to navigate and balance. It can both be between, for example, time horizons, between various people, stakeholders, different modes of thinking and feeling. And what I did in my studies was that I drew on theories and concepts from management. I have background in management and design because these scholars know a lot about how do we balance and manage different tensions from strategic transitions. And we can find that through theories such as strategic thinking or strategic agility or even paradoxical thinking. And so I used an action research methodology to explore how can design support this organization in their transition towards service-centered offerings. So what I did was that I did a lot of design workshops, a lot of design work, and I also drew on this very engaged and very immersed role I had in the organization, where I was part of establishing a new design team. And what I I found out very shortly was that design could really support this organization in their transition by helping them to navigate different temporalities, but also time horizons, to balance different perspectives, stakeholders, and so on, but also to break out of their routinary ways of thinking. So also maybe to spark something new. That was very short. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Olivia. And it's really interesting to hear that the practical application of research and how it is manifesting in that way. Thank you for sharing your experience. And yes, I would love to invite Hadass to share, because she's right now doing her PhD. So tell us how it is right now to be in this epicenter of activities, and what is alive in you, and like what it is like to be in the program itself.
Okay, hello, and thank you for having me here. Maybe I'll say something about the title of my PhD or the area of my research, and then maybe I can also share where does it meet me in my personal life. And then those of you who find that it resonates with you, you're welcome to talk to me afterwards and ask questions, maybe, because I think that makes a great deal of the entire journey, right? Okay, so I work in the area of participatory design, and more specifically, I work with the context of urban transformation projects, which are projects that bring together many stakeholders from many fields. Some of them are human who are directly involved in this project, and some of them are non-humans who are affected by these projects. And all these stakeholders, they have different standpoints, different perspectives, and they're assigned to different timeframes. And they all work together, or somehow we would like them to work together, but that's, of course, very complex. And what I'm trying to research is how we can use participatory visual mapping, so different kind of visual participatory methods, to help the stakeholders to work together by understanding or thinking through different dimensions of time. So this is in general what I'm doing. Part of my work is assigned to a European project, an Horizon project, which I'm part of. And other parts of my work, I do different kind of workshops together with practitioners, together with citizens, together with students, a bit similar to what Olivia was just describing, and try to learn from that and build on that. And the way I work is that I come from practice. I have many years of experience as visual designer. I started my PhD in the age of 43, so that could be something you can ask me about later. So I have a lot of experience in practice, and what I do is I run workshops, and I learn from these workshops something, and then I build up on that, either by continuous workshops or by writing some papers, and then from the act of writing and being engaged with ideas of other people, I learn new stuff, which leads me to other workshops, because I want to test other aspects or build farther on what I was already writing, and that brings me to write again, and so on and so forth. So that's kind of the process for me of doing a PhD. Anything else you would like to?
I have to say, like, it's been really interesting to hear that you're talking about mentioning human and non-human stakeholders. Like, I'm really curious about that, but maybe I will join later the breakout session and hear a little bit more. But yeah, maybe it's actually good timing for us to move into breakouts. So let me share a little bit how it's going to work and how we're going to do that. Thank you so much. I hope you had great conversations. And I am actually very curious what emerged, what kind of key topics, reflections and questions came up. So very briefly, I would love to hear from all of our wonderful hosts of the breakout rooms of what emerged in the conversation that you were having in your breakout room. So yeah, maybe we start from breakout room number 1. Marcia, would you like to share just briefly?
Yes, so we mainly talked about some specifics of the positions that we are providing, some related to how the research projects are going to evolve, what is the focus, the scale, and how we plan to accommodate different master degrees and different backgrounds that the candidates might have. I'm really sorry on this that our website is not live yet. We were planning to have it live for this event, but we didn't manage, unfortunately. But again, it should be live soon, in a couple of weeks at the most. And so there you will already find a lot of information on the requirements for the Marie Curie scheme, for applying, what we are asking you to prepare for applying, and also the specificities of the research projects that we are proposing. Bearing in mind, as I already said in a breakout room, then these will only be starting points, because then, like for any research, this will keep on evolving throughout the 3 years. And at the end of the 3 years, it will not end, because a PhD is just the beginning of a journey in research that can go on for your entire life.
Indeed, thank you so much. I love that actual practical approach to it. Lucy, was this the case also in your breakout room?
Just to add to there will be more information soon, but we talked about the secondments and how they offered a strong opportunity to work closely with an organization for either 3 or 6 months from among our partners, which include Climate Kick as a secondment partner. So, and that there are funds available, both obviously, as Marcia said, to pay your salary, but also funds to make the travel to these places affordable, and that's equalized across all of the 13 students. So if you're doing your PhD in a Southern European country where the cost of living is cheaper, and you're going to do visits to Northern European country that's more expensive, you have additional financial resources available so that it is equitable. So we talked about that.
Thank you so much, Lucy. And I love that those 13 students will actually be in the community together. So yes, everybody will be doing research in the universities their place, but also it is about sharing those insights and learning throughout this community. Nicola, what was the conversation in your group? What emerged? What questions have participants asked?
Yeah, the questions were, well, there were many different questions, some of which have been touched by Marcia and Lucy in a different way. But I would say one question was about choosing the university and the topic. You may have a topic that is that you feel that it is your topic, but it may happen that universities there is a rule that you shouldn't have attended lived in that country for the 2 years before, I think. I don't remember what the term is, but and so that means that you cannot actually work in that university. But in that case, you should take into account that the subjects that we synthesized the topic and sort of grouped the main topics in those 3 categories. But that means that there are some sort of overlapping or some possibilities that you can have a research that is very close to the what we are thinking of working on and in a call offered by another university. And then there were other questions about whether other university can join the network, and the answer, I think, is no, unless there is a sort of informal cooperation, and also whether other supervisor can actually join the network. And the same question. I mean, there could be a sort of informal cooperation that could go case to case. The network is the network that has been fixed by the in the whole project in the Marie Curie application.
Thank you so much, Nico. But it's also interesting to notice that it actually is, the format is interesting for other universities as well.
Yes.
That's a really, really good sign. Olivia, what was the conversation in your room? I would imagine it was not so much on the practicalities, even though, yeah, please share.
True, true, it wasn't. We talked about experiences from shifting between practice and academia and experiences in shifting institutions. And then at the end, our conversation took quite a turn where we discussed more if design can be an arena to explore questions of justice and patterns of power, for example, in innovation practices and so on. So that was super interesting, and I hope that we'll continue that conversation somewhere else.
That really sounds very exciting. Thank you so much, Olivia. Hadass, what was happening in your room?
Sorry, my camera just died. But we talked about a lot of practicalities and where does the PhD meet us in our life. We talked about what happens when I come from a different country. Can I apply if I'm not coming from Europe and I have a different orientation? Is it valid? Is it relevant? How much there is a space in the application to bring my own perspective and my interest, and how rigid is the definition, and so on and so forth.
Wow, really, really interesting topics and conversations. Thank you for sharing that. And last but not the least, Carolina, what emerged in your breakout room? What did you discuss with the participants?
So in our breakout room, I think we approach a lot of the topics already mentioned before. Also, from the past through that this was a more let's say hands-on pragmatical PhD program. It was a lot very much appreciated on how practitioners are very much interested in applying. Also, some of them asked if it was possible to contact previously the different PhD tutors or universities to start understanding, like for the applications on January, if they have to start framing, if they have to elaborate research proposals or something like that. And also we're asking about what I explained, and we went a bit deeper on what is the role of Climate Kick in this program, on how we're going to, let's say, approach from the hands-on part and the kind of implementation a bit of the research, the doctoral researchers that are going to be hosting this program.
Thank you so much. Yes, indeed, it's really interesting to see all those diversity of perspectives and questions that emerged in different breakouts, depending on who was in the room. We are approaching our end of our time for today together. So I would love to pass it on back to Lucy and Marcia to summarize a little bit the next steps and how to apply, and then I'll share a little bit more information in the end before we close. So over to you, Lucy.
I am just going to share my screen, and then Marcia and I are just going to talk together about, we already shared the application timeline, but I'll just flash it up again to remind you. So the network formally starts in January, and today in a sense is a sort of soft launch, pre-launch, beginning of communications. The deadline is the 26th of February, and then this is the high-level process. So a reminder that for these positions you would be doing two things. You would be employed at one of the partner universities, and you would also be registered for a PhD at that university. So your line manager for the job is also your lead supervisor. And then Marcia, do you want to go through these things? So these just what to start preparing.
Yes, of course, you don't have a lot of details in this slide, and we reckon that this slide is also quite full of content, so don't worry about all that is written in here right now. It will be more explicit and more explained as soon as we will have our website live. It's important to know that 26th of February is the application deadline. So if you're interested, this is something that you can already put in your diary and start preparing. What to start preparing? These 6 elements are the main things that we are going to ask each applicant to prepare: a cover letter, curriculum vitae, a copy of their master diploma, portfolio reflective text, and the application form that you will be able to find in our digital space that we are also setting up as we speak. Of course, when the website will be live and the application form will be made available, there will be further descriptions for each one of these elements and what we expect to see, also in terms of length, how long will the curriculum vitae need to be, how long the reflective text, and about what, and so on. As someone already asked in the chat, there are certain eligibility criteria that you need to comply with, partly because these are mandatory for the Marie Curie scheme, and partly because some of those are mandatory for the hosting institution that will employ you. For sure, you should not already have a doctoral degree. If you already have a doctorate, unfortunately, you're not eligible for a Marie Curie funded scheme. The mobility rule is also mandatory for Marie Curie's, and I have already inputted details of what the mobility rule says in the chat, and you will find out more in our website. Of course, you should not already be employed by the hosting institution that will employ you for the Marie Curie. You should be proficient in English. Again, you should have less than 4 years of research experience, and we will send more details on what this research experience entails to those that asked in the chat. Of course, when you apply, you are also giving consent to the secondments that will imply physical mobility throughout your 3 years. You will also have a link in this slide to the Marie Curie website, where many of these eligibility criteria are further explained. And we will embed more details on our website, of which you can already see the domain in the slide, although it's not active yet. But I've seen that Hannah, our partner that is curating all the communication aspects of the project, has already put in the chat in previous messages LinkedIn and Twitter accounts, so that you can start following us there, and we will certainly publish a news when our comms it's more ready and more detailed.
Thank you so much, Martha and Lucy. Very much appreciated. From my side, just briefly to note to you that we're going to have another info session on 25th of January with a similar format, but of course at that time it will be slightly different because a lot of things would be already public, so we can go into further deeper discussions. So we'll send information about that. We'll also share the recording of this session in case you want to share it with your colleagues and friends. And last but not least, I know we are on time, but we had a wonderful meta listener with us. Marina was trying to capture some of the conversation that we had on the meta level, so I would love to pass it on to her to share what has emerged for her. Over to you, Marina.
Thank you, Ina. So I shared the link in the chat to the space where I was taking notes, but if you want to have a look later more carefully, you can find there's some, I think, key information that I have seen have been coming up in the chat and through questions. So you can see the length of the PhD, the fact that it will be paid, the different salary that you will find in the different locations, the link to the social media accounts of the doctoral program. And that's all. We will share the recording of this session. Just stay tuned to social media of the Doctoral Network, speakers, and Climate Kick. And we hope that that the session was interesting for you all.
Thank you so much, Marina. And we'll also copy all the questions that you had on the chats, and we'll put it on the Miro board. It will stay open and active, so you can always go back to it. And this is the end of our time for today together. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for your questions, for engaging in conversations, and staying curious and open. Maybe as the last thing, I would love if we can all unmute ourselves, and while we leave, we say goodbye to each other in our own languages and celebrate the diversity that we have from a perspective of cultures that we're bringing into the space. So please unmute yourself and say goodbye in your own language.